Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this morning for our webinar series, Education and Research in the COVID-19 Era. My name is Fiona Morris, and I am the Counsellor Education and Science at the Australian High Commission in Malaysia. Welcome to our fifth and final webinar in this series of 5 webinars looking at the impact of the pandemic on education and research in Malaysia and Australia. My office in the Australian High Commission is responsible for enhancing collaboration between Australia and Malaysia in the area of education and research. And this bilateral webinar series, developed jointly with the Ministry of Higher Education, is a product of that collaboration. Some of you may have joined us for one or more of our other webinars, which have covered a range of topics, including quality assurance and evaluation, assessment and integrity in online higher education, online learning and teaching in the TVET and polytechnic sectors, and sustaining research and collaboration in pandemic times. Recordings of the webinars will be made available after the webinar series concludes. We are very pleased to have you now join us for webinar 5, which will provide perspectives on professional development and employability in the post-COVID-19 era. I will shortly introduce our moderator for today, but before I do, a quick note to please put any questions you have in the Q&A chat box, which is separate and different to the normal chat box. We will monitor the Q&A chat, and the moderator will ask the panelists these questions at the end of all of the 4 presentations. And now to our moderator. Associate Professor Dr. Faisal Ali Anwar Ali Khan is the Director of the Centre for Student Development at the University of Malaysia, Sarawak, and is also an Associate Professor in Zoology at the Faculty of Resource Science and Technology. He received his PhD from Texas Tech University in the United States on his research on the systematics and molecular evolution of Southeast Asian bats. His laboratory is currently studying the regional biodiversity of hyper-rich areas using several groups of bats, rodents, shrew, and primates by looking at multiple genetic transmission lines. They are also exploring high-throughput genomics and bioinformatics data to understand the natural history of mammalian species in this region. Very important work in these pandemic times. With respect to his role as Director of the Centre for Student Development, the Centre is focused on the coordination for co-curricular and soft skills activities, graduate career and employability, as well as alumni relations. Over to you, Dr. Faisal.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Madam Fiona. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all members. First and foremost, I would like to welcome our speakers and all the attendees. I'll be your moderator for this webinar session. As mentioned earlier, we have completed 4 of the 5 webinar sessions. Earlier today, we are going to start 1, and also we have completed 4 of these, I think, earlier this week. This is our final webinar session for this series, and we'll discuss the topic professional development and employability in the post-COVID-19 era. This is a topic that will summarize the 4 different topics that we have discussed earlier in the week, which is a matter that relates and contributes towards professional development and the employability. So we have 4 speakers. We have a lineup of 4 interesting speakers with different views on this particular topic. And a quick note before I introduce our speaker, we will have all 4 of our speakers today to share their views on the topic about 15 minutes. And we will take any question you may have once we are done with all 4 of the speakers sharing session. You may post your question or views via Q&A box as mentioned by Madam Fiona earlier. So we'll start our session with our first speaker, Associate Professor Michelle Whitford from Griffith University, Queensland, Australia. Hi, Professor Michelle.
Hello.
Hi. A quick background about Associate Professor Michelle. Associate Professor Michelle is Director Curriculum at Griffith University. She's responsible for providing institutional opportunities that enable and support transformational curricula that facilitates exceptional student learning experiences and contribute to the development of Griffith graduates of the future. Her research expertise is in the field of policy, planning, sustainable design, development, and management of First Nation tourism and events. Professor Michelle's expertise includes leading research projects in the area of indigenous tourism and events with a focus on supply and demand, capacity development, entrepreneurship, authenticity, and commodification and management. She has led research projects for various organizations, including the Sustainable Tourism Cooperative Research Centre, the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island Studies, Indigenous Business Australia, National Environmental Science Programme, Tourism and Events Queensland, Queensland Tourism Industry Council. Without further ado, we invite Associate Professor Michelle to deliver her thoughts on our topic today. Associate Professor Michelle, to you.
Thank you very much, and bear with me while I just share my screen with everyone. So thank you for the invitation to participate in today's webinar. It's certainly an honour and a pleasure to be in the presence of my learned colleagues, and it's also a privilege to have the opportunity to share and discuss with you all employability skills in the 21st century. But before I speak any further, please join with me and acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands that we're all meeting on today. And let's pay our respects to the elders past, present, and those emerging. So let me tell you a little bit about Griffith University. The university was established in 1971 and it's located in the southeast corner of sunny Queensland. Griffith is currently ranking among the top 2% of universities worldwide. We host around 50,000 students across 6 campuses, which includes our digital campus. We have over 4,000 staff and around about 200,000 graduates. And we are very proud to be a socially conscious and environmentally aware university, and we are very much committed to making material contributions to our local, national and international communities. The current employment landscape is rapidly changing. It's shifting how we work and engage with one another. And the fourth industrial revolution is certainly changing both the nature of our workplaces and our expectations for the workforce. And a fusion of technologies continue to blur the lines between the physical and digital spheres. So our students need to be prepared to not only work and function in these spaces, but they need to be prepared and capable of leading the way. So while technological advancements are supporting smarter, more agile and more globally connected ways of living and working, they also require a shift in the skill sets and even more so notions of career pathways. For instance, issues relating to climate crisis, such as the current European bushfire disasters, or demographic changes in regional and social inequalities, such as the humanitarian crisis that's unfolded in Afghanistan. All of these instances and a whole lot more amplify the role our future graduates might or will have in contributing to the ongoing development and functioning of healthy, connected, cohesive and safe communities. At Griffith, we recognise that our students enter higher education with diverse experiences from diverse backgrounds and different stages of their careers. They require access to employability and career development opportunities that are both scaffolded and targeted. So at the moment, we are busy focusing our efforts on providing all our students with high quality learning experiences in degrees which are specifically designed to prepare our students for the future. So our degrees are developed in consultation with industry, and I think it's important to note here that from the beginning, way back in the 70s, Griffith has been very open to the community. And it has been very industry focused. And so our students continue to benefit from an extensive network of industry partners to gain the skills, the knowledge, the abilities, and the confidence they need to effectively navigate and manage what are becoming increasingly complex and ever-changing career landscapes. So strengthening student graduate outcomes by providing our students with opportunities to develop their employability is a key tenet of Griffith's strategic focus. And we appreciate that the shape and structure of employability at Griffith needs to accommodate the development of learning that enables our students to experience a genuinely transformative, authentic education experience that prepares them for the future of work and life in the 21st century. So we've made a commitment to providing our students with a diverse range of learning opportunities that equip our future graduates with skills and capabilities for navigating meaningful careers within an increasingly complex society. And from an operational perspective, this means that we're developing short and long-term employability initiatives that are responsive to the needs of our diverse cohorts and stakeholders. And as employability increasingly becomes a significant driver of transformation in the higher education sector, I think it's fair to say that as governments and industry increasingly place responsibility onto tertiary institutions to provide students with practical work experiences to develop their employability, delivering diverse opportunities to students that will support them as they pursue meaningful careers has really become a focus of universities around the globe, and certainly in Australia. In fact, universities in Australia are under continuous pressure to demonstrate the relevance of our degrees to government priorities and the needs of society. So for instance, last year, the Australian government introduced the National Priorities and Industry Linkage Fund, MPILF, through the Job Ready Graduates Package of Reforms to Higher Education. And the overall aspiration of the fund is to support enhanced engagement between universities and industry by prioritising an increase in the number of internships, practicums, and other innovative approaches to work integrated learning, by prioritising an increase in the number of STEM skilled graduates and an improvement in their employment outcomes, and by prioritising the development of partnerships and collaborations with industry. Now, graduate employability in Australian higher education institutions is measured by responses to the Graduate Outcomes Survey, which is a national online survey of 109 higher education institutions. And it measures the destinations, the satisfaction, and the key outcomes of recent higher education graduates. And the outcomes of the 2020 GOS, or Graduate Outcomes Survey, clearly showed that COVID-19 has had a major impact on graduate employment outcomes in Australia. We've seen a decline in the overall employment rate for undergraduates, dropping from 86.8% in 2019 to 85.1% in 2020. So these results serve to fuel the heightened focus that we're experiencing in Australia on strengthening graduate employability. And so not surprisingly, the provision of opportunities to develop strong graduate employment outcomes continues to be the aim of our degrees at Griffith. So to strengthen employability across all our degrees, Griffith is adopting a whole of university approach to facilitate network scenarios that advance our students' discipline-specific skills in conjunction with the interpersonal, cognitive and creative capabilities demanded by the fourth industrial age. And we have to provide opportunities for applying these skills and capabilities within different organisational contexts or enterprising endeavours, because we believe it's important to create spaces and opportunities for our students to apply, reflect and articulate their capability development, and to do this while they're also building interpersonal networks with industry and community partners that support the development of their professional identity. A former Griffith colleague, Ruth Bridgestock, said that graduate employability in its broadest sense can be thought of as both lifelong and life-wide. It's the ongoing capacity to live and work productively and meaningfully in an increasingly dynamic and complex society. In essence, employability skills are the essential skills, personal qualities and values that enable us to thrive in any workplace. And some of these skills our students require in the 21st century include being ethically sophisticated and being able to contribute to work and society through values-based behaviour, and highly developed self-regulatory capacities. But at the same time, they need to be technologically savvy, networked and connected. And it's incumbent upon us to provide our students with learning opportunities where they can develop their professional identity, develop their industry networks, develop the relevant knowledge and skills, and it's up to us to provide our students with opportunities where they can prepare for recruitment activities and successful transition to employment. So let me share some desktop research that was undertaken by Vivian Wu, who was one of our fabulous Griffith evaluation officers. Vivian did a content analysis of 2020 and 2021 public reports. The documents came from the likes of the World Economic Forum, the OECD 21st Century Skills, SEEK, LinkedIn, and so on. And she wanted to determine what these different source documents were identifying as in-demand skills in the 21st century. I guess that none of the skills on the slide that you're looking at are a shock to anyone, but the one that does pique my interest is resilience, stress, tolerance, and flexibility. I would hazard a guess that most of us are drawing on these very skills at the moment as we navigate the ever-changing COVID environments we're all living and working in. This slide shows you the top hard skills that emerged from the documents that Vivian had a look at. And this slide shows you the top soft skills that emerged from the documents. I think it's interesting that resilience doesn't come through as a top soft skill in this set of data, but I suggest it's a matter of watch this space as resilience becomes increasingly important over the next few years. Now, one of the resources at Griffith, which we draw upon to develop our students' employability skills, is our service learning team, managed by our resident service learning expert, Dr. Faith Valencia-Forrester. Service learning provides our students with opportunities to develop a range of civic engagement, group, organisational and interpersonal skills. The experiential nature of service learning means our students gain experience working with diverse members of their communities, and at the same time, they learn to reflect on their experiences and develop critical thinking skills. So as partners in learning, students have an important role to play in shaping how we engage students in skill development that supports them in their future careers. There's a real opportunity for universities to gain a better understanding of the student experience by elevating the student voice. And thanks to Faith and our service learning team, I'm going to finish my presentation today by sharing the student voice with you, because arguably it's one of the most powerful resources we have to draw on as we continue to strive to provide our students with opportunities where they can learn to be courageous, to capture opportunity, to make a difference and change the future for the better. Thank you for listening today. And now I'm going to hand over to Joel for the last word.
My name's Joel Gregory Hayes, and I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Climate Change Adaptation and Ecotourism. I volunteered during my community internship at Griffith Centre for Coastal Management as a part of the Coastal Community Engagement Program in Beach Care. Internships different from other internships in that you're volunteering, so you're working for organisations out there in the community, often really good things for the world, the social and environmental aspects. The course changed me by exposing me to the professional field. I didn't have that exposure anywhere else from my university degree, and I got that from the internship. I was able to bring my passion into my internship. My involvement in the internship was special because I got to work with community members, and I really enjoy the social aspects of my professional career. The internship became a stepping stone for my career in a number of ways. I developed my ability to work within the community, and I do that now through my project, Group Del Sol. And yeah, I talk to a number of different people in a number of different ways. I communicate the ideas, the technical ideas to them as best as I possibly can. Route Del Sol is a project where we're taking an electric camper van retrofitted with solar panels and driving it from Alaska to Argentina because I want to communicate the ideas surrounding climate change to a broad audience. The internship experience helped me realize what I was capable of by pushing me out of my comfort zones. Previously, I'd never really worked in a space where I had to deal with people, and that was exactly what I did, and that's exactly what I do now. So that's how it really helped. The biggest impact that I had during my internship would have been working with the community, I discovered that people are different and they're coming from a problem from all different angles and perspectives. One of the greatest things that I got from the community internship was that I got a job afterwards. So students should enroll in this course because I think they're going to get a lot back. They're going to get a lot of value out of what they do because they're working with organizations that generally offer volunteering experiences. So they're going to feel good about what they're doing. Plus, they're also going to get credit and the potential to get a job after they finish the course. Do an internship that makes a difference and make the community internship your internship of choice.
Okay. I guess, is that all, Associate Professor
That's
Michelle?
me. Thank you. Yes, that's me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Associate Professor Michelle Withwood. Thank you for the sharing session, specifically on the context of Australian graduates. I think one of the thing that we highlighted, or that we hear from you, is the importance of how we should adopt employability in the context of lifelong learning and being technologically savvy. So I think these are the key points we get, and also a sharing from Joel. We will now move on to our next speaker, Professor Dr. Hong Wei Ming from UOW Malaysia KDU, which is part of University of Wollongong, Australia's global network. A quick background about Professor Dr. Hong. Professor Dr. Hong is currently the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic for UOW Malaysia KDU, overseeing the strategic development and enhancement of the UOWM KDU's faculties, academic programs, and student experience. Prior to joining UOWM KDU, Professor Dr. Hong held senior management and academic leadership position at leading private university. Her responsibilities include overseeing strategic development, human resources, and financial management, as well as academic development of the faculty. In total, she has accumulated over 16 years of academic administration experience. Before joining the education industry, Professor Dr. Hong served as the Vice President for a vast growing regional biotechnology company in Singapore, where she spearheaded the life science business. Professor Dr. Hong began her career as a research scientist at a young age, immediately after obtaining her PhD, and has accumulated many years of research experience. She had also published many peer-reviewed journals on the topics of biotechnology and molecular biology. Professor Dr. Hong graduated with a Bachelor of Science from the National University of Singapore. She earned her doctorate from the same university in 1997. She was a council member of the Singapore Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology and member of the Malaysian Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. Without further ado, we invite Professor Dr. Hong to deliver her points on our topic today. Professor Dr. Hong, to you.
Thank you, Faisal, for great introductions. Let me just share my slide first. Can everyone see my slide?
Yes, Prof.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. As being introduced, I'm Layman, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic from UOW Malaysia KDU. It is a great honor that I'm here representing UOW Malaysia KDU, a private institution in Malaysia with 39 years of history and recently become part of University of Wollongong Global Network. Happy to be part of the contributor for this meaningful, timely webinar series organized by Malaysian Ministry of Higher Education and Department of Education, Skills and Employability of Australia. At UOW Malaysia KDU, we put in effort in developing curriculum with the industry and train the students together with the industry to fill the talent gap. And I believe this is what most of the academic institutions are doing. However, with the heat of COVID-19 and the changing landscape of many different economic sectors, it is utmost important now for us to relook and rethink of what we, education institutions, doing in the past or currently. Is it still relevant for the post-COVID-19 era? So I would like to share, before I go into my view, but I would like to share the landscape of the future jobs that is presented by the World Economic Forum. This slide here, I am sharing the job landscape that was presented by World Economic Forum in 2018 for the jobs landscape in 2022. And at the same time, I'm comparing the job landscape that has just recently been published for the 2025 by the same forum. And let's look at what are the differences between these two job landscape that is presented by them. Interestingly, there are still quite a few jobs that is high in demand are still in the list. However, for the 2025, it is definitely reports that is affected by the pandemic that started to happen end of 2019 for the world. And we can see now jobs that is digital marketing and strategy specialist has now come as one of the key jobs. And also business development professionals has also come on the list. I believe most of us know that this pandemic has affected a lot of economic sector badly. And this actually makes us as education institutions to really need to start thinking the programs that we are currently offered to our students, the curriculum that we plan for the student now, and how we prepare our students for the future. Is it still relevant? I bring everyone just to come back to one of the key sectors that has drawn attentions of a lot of people. This sector is the hospitality and tourism sector. For the last 1.5 years, though a lot of us do wish that we can go travel again and we can go lie at the side of the beach and enjoy the scenery and get ourselves out of this every day facing the computer and having webinar sessions every day. But this hospitality and tourism sectors has definitely one of the key sectors that been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Most of the Malaysians know that a lot of well-known hotels has actually closed down during the last 1 year plus. Even though a lot of hotels have decided to close shop, but interestingly, when we start looking at some other players in the same industry, we see a lot of innovative approach. We see a lot of adaptable people that start to appear. For example, we can see that one of the managers, the hotel managers at Penang Hotel, he decided to bring his team to start selling street food at a very reasonable price so that he can actually maintain the business for the hotel. And at the same time, we can also see that there's a lot of hotels start to offer interesting packages, vacation packages to people in order to actually to have their business to be ongoing. So hospitality and tourism sectors, is it going to be doomed or is it going to grow? For UW Malaysia KDU, we are one of the pioneers in offering education in this sector. And it will be worrying if these sectors are not able to provide jobs for our graduates. However, I would like to highlight the fact is, even though this sector seems to be a little bit doomed at this point of time, our students that have to undergo internship as a compulsory modules for their programs, we have no issue in placing any of them during this pandemic time. The key factors why they are able to still get their internship placement and thereafter secure themselves a job is because we have trained our students to be able to adapt and change and also being resilient. One of the examples that happened to our internship student is when the pandemic first started back in January 2019, we actually have 2 of our hospitality students having their internship at Wuhan, China. You can imagine that during that period of time, the whole world is in a panic situations and everyone is so worried that if someone is at Wuhan, what is going to happen to them? So the students that are back at Wuhan at that time doing their internship finally came back to Malaysia after some processes being carried out. And as we interviewed them, our students actually told us they are not downhearted by the whole situation, but instead, they really appreciate the whole learning experience that they gained during that period of time, because it was an experience that not everybody will have the opportunity to experience. Let's look at the other sectors, healthcare sectors. Healthcare sectors during this pandemic time is considered one of the booming sectors, as all of us know that healthcare workers are in high demand. And not only that, healthcare sectors that provide vaccine productions as well as other medical devices are all in high demand. However, we also seen that some of the hospitals that previously before the pandemic rely on medical tourism as part of their businesses actually are currently not doing that well. So let's look at healthcare sectors and hospitality sectors. What are the key similarities of these two sectors? These two sectors are not in the list of the World Economic Forums, but the people that work in these two sectors must have very important characteristics with them in order for them to excel in these two sectors. And I strongly believe that these are the key factors that is important for the future jobs. And these are the key factors that we must make sure that we'll build this into all our students, no matter which academic discipline they have decided to be engaged in. So let's look at the same, and Michelle just now has also shown this slide. Yeah, I also did a comparison between 2018's report and the 2020 reports. As what Michelle has mentioned, two key skills are now appearing on the 2020 reports. One is technology use, monitoring, and control. Before pandemic, a lot of people will think that this is just a very basic skill. But during the pandemic, all of us realized that it is so important for us to have this skill in order for us to survive during this period of time. And on top of that, being resilient, being able to handle the stress that is incurred during this period of time when there is so much uncertainties is one of the key skills that is reported by this forum. And it comes to my view that what is the important things that can prepare our students for the future? I personally believe it's the human factors. It is utmost important for us to make sure that our students will have the ability to adapt to change and being resilient through ups and downs. And it's also very important for our students to be determined and persevere through when there are challenges ahead of them. And I think it's super duper important for us to stay positive. Personal well-being will be the key for us during this challenging time. It is not easy. A lot of the times, the news that come to us are not so nice, not so good news. And if we are not able to take care of our own personal well-being, I believe we will not be able to excel in our job. And it's very important for us to eliminate all the negativities. Yeah. Only with this, only being positive, we can make impossible to become possible, unattainable to be attainable, unsuccessful to be successful. Creativity and innovations is the other key factors. As I mentioned during the hospitality sectors, the slides there, I mentioned that there are some hotels that choose to close down. However, there are some of them decided to be innovative, to be creative, and they will change to survive through this period of time. And therefore, being creative and innovative is super duper important as well. Nothing beats having the passions. Whichever field the students choose to study or choose to be their future potential job, I think the most important thing is you must be passionate towards what you are doing. Looking at the current situations, looking at how the healthcare frontliners are supporting each other in this challenging time without passions, I believe a lot of them will quit in between. So passion is very important. So for students who might, but when they look at the first slides that is by the World Economic Forum and realize that why is it most of the jobs that listed there are technology related? And I am not so much a technology person. Is that means that my future will be doomed? My answer is no. Technology has become part of our life. We can't run away with it. Being tech savvy is super important. But most important is you must still be passionate and choose what you are passionate towards and work towards it. So it doesn't matter whether it's hospitality or being a healthcare worker, you must have passions to drive you on. During this period of time when we have all these webinar sessions, what is important is it's still very important for us to make sure, even though we cannot go out of the house, we have to study online, we must create opportunities for our students to be able to collaborate with people all around the world. It is very important for the student during this period of time when they cannot travel, when they cannot participate in a real mobility program, but they're still given the opportunities to meet other people around the world for them to understand the issues in the world. So at UW Malaysia KDU, we introduced global classroom so that we can arrange for our students to be in the same class and have their discussions with students all over the world. Last but not least, the curriculum that we design, how we work with the industry to make the curriculum a strong curriculum that will provide the best competency levels for the students as well as the professional acumen. This will ensure that the students will eventually graduate with a very full, strong self-confidence. Only when we have a confident students, they will be able to excel in their future. In UW KDU, we have a list of graduate attributes that we aim to develop with all the students from all the disciplines. And we strongly believe that when we implement this through our transformative teaching and learning, through our curriculum, as well as students' activities effectively, students will be able to develop the human factors that I mentioned just now. And I believe no one knows what will be the future jobs that in high demand. Things keep changing, and it changed to the extent that things can be very different now compared to pre-COVID. And at this point of time, we are also not sure what will be the new world. So I'm not saying that none of us can actually predict and prepare the student for the future jobs, but it is very important for us to make sure that we prepare our students with the right attributes, with the right skills, so that they can excel no matter what, no matter how the world changed to become after the COVID-19. Thank you. I would like to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Horn, for sharing the thoughts, especially on the topic related to Charles Darwin, to continue to survive. The topic is very critical and very relevant to us today. You highlight the importance of looking into global job landscape and adapt the new need to be resilient and take care of personal well-being. These are the key things, besides being and approaching towards technological savvy, passion are the key things that you need to look into to keep you moving forward. So thank you so much, Professor Dr. Horn. So we will now move to our next speaker. Our third speaker is Professor Dr. Yong Zulina Zubairi from University Malaya. Assalamualaikum, Professor Dr. Yong. A quick background about Professor Dr. Yong Zulina Zubairi. Professor Dr. Yong leads on the global strategy for partnerships and collaborations university-wide with her current position as the Associate Vice Chancellor International at University Malaya. She works collaboratively with international partners and networks in projects and initiatives to promote student mobility, STEM education, talent management, graduate employability, and leadership in women. She is passionate in her primary training as a statistician and has published numerous articles in reputable journals in her long-standing research areas in medical and circular statistics, as well as supervising a number of postgraduates in the field. As an alumnus of the Commonwealth Fellowship, she's involved with the works of ACU and several other NGOs that promote the well-being of women and statistical literacy to students. Without further ado, we invite Professor Dr. Yong to deliver her thoughts on our topic today. Professor Yong, back to you.
Thank you very much, Professor Faisal. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning, a very good day. On behalf of the University Malaya, it's a privilege. I represent the university to share our thoughts, our journey, and how do we respond in this pandemic. Yeah. So on behalf of the university, and also I feel privileged to share with you our experience. So give me a minute to share my slides. Right. So I presume you can see now. Yeah.
Sure,
right.
Prof.
So my angle will be slightly different from the previous presenters, where I'm just going to share a case study of the university for the information of the audience here. University Malaya is a public university, the oldest university in Malaysia. Right. Now, what we have done is, I think it's very common with every university, is to have this roadmap, a transformation map. Right. So we have done this a 5-year cycle, which we did on 2019. At that time, the buzzword was really IR 4.0, what it is, what are the transformative action that we need to take. So with regard to the teaching and learning, these are the 5 key areas. Before we even want to change, we need to have some analytics. We need to have data to back things out. Otherwise, we keep on changing without having any data to start with. Yeah. Then, of course, the buzzword, I think everybody has been, sharing their thoughts on this one, really the future-ready graduates. So for us, we want to make a difference from the rest of it. What is it? We want to imprint the University Malaya DNA for our graduates. What makes them different from the rest out there? Okay, and of course the third one is really having to have the 21st century skills, and the way to do it only makes sense to embed within the curriculum, and as well to have a very flexible structure when we deliver this program, and the curriculum must take into account the flexibility, taking note of the student unique experience. In other words, in a nutshell, the word that we would like to put in when the students come in, and they come in as a new student, they will have a personalized learning experience in their journey as a University Malaya students. So on that note, that was the planning into 2019. And then when with the pandemic, things change altogether. But I would like to share with you the many initiatives of that, that grand scale of that initiative, some of the ones that become really relevant, that very pertinent to the situation we are in right now is really, one of it is the student inventory. The earlier speakers have talked about having to have that soft skills, and the World Economic Forum has listed out. So how do we provide them? How do we nurture them? So on that one, we felt that although students come in with the same academic background, credentials, but the levels of skills are different, and that's in here we have the psychological capital really comes very relevant. the gratitude, the resilience, the adaptability, mindfulness, integrity, having the grit, and the emotional intelligence really becomes very important in the situation we are in right now. So we need to have that precision intervention where we provide programs that really fill in the gaps and the needs of the students. So this one was really something that we felt, right, we had done it right, and this is something we must push forward. The second initiative that we did in 2019 in that work was, I think, become very relevant is as we were doing curriculum review, we need to have more of a flexible, more of a liberal arts, general education that fits in today's scenario. And when this pandemic, hit us, it becomes really important. The second one, providing courses that really touch the emotional, address the physical, the spiritual, and the intelligence of students. Again, like I said, we did it in 2019, 2018. We were toying what kind of courses would actually be providing, addressing these thematic issues that we want students to have when they graduate. And of course, other things like the thinking methods and global issues, for example. So this is something that we have done, and we felt, right, this is the time we have to execute, and these courses will start in these upcoming sessions. So a few other things that we had done in the earlier planning had to change, and that's where we have to intervene. We have to do the precision intervention to really address where we are right now. So I would like to share some examples, some of the intervention that we have done. The first one is, we know the changing landscape of the work out there. We know that the opportunities for graduates to get a job is extremely difficult. Data from the Department of Statistics shows a 1.8% decrease of graduate employability in 2020 as opposed in 2019, as well as the unemployment percentage also increased in 2020 as opposed in 2019. And although the results in 2021 are not out, but we could see it will not be, any increase. It could be even worse. It's just that how bad will that be? So entrepreneurship is something that we felt has got to come in. That's where we reach out to industry experts. That's where we bring forward the career and counseling services to really be talking to the industry, improve the industrial training. When we get into the lockdown way back in 2020, quite a number of students are doing their internship, and they had to call us back and say, what's now? Companies have been closed. How do you go about? We had to negotiate. So we have to really work fast to make sure, although they are doing it remotely from home, but then the training, there should not be shortchange on the training. And really, it is all about changing our mindset, changing the whole training, really changing the way we monitor the students. So in a nutshell, I would like to highlight 4 key areas that we have done as a university. For University Malaya, we are a research university. What it means is that we offer more courses. We're looking at the programs that we offer. Yeah? We do offer more courses at the postgraduate level. So this is where we realized that we reach out to graduates, not just recent graduates, but 2 or 3 years alumni who kind of realized that the job is just not there. I mean, they lost the job and things like that. So we reach out to them to say, hey, perhaps this is a good time for upskilling. So we provide a flexible pathway, meaning to say that we provide programs on the online distance learning. What does it mean? Remote learning, a lot of flexibility. And as a public university, although we do not have a lot of funding to provide, but we do launch like the graduate teaching assistantship to postgraduate students to help, to get by with it in these very difficult times. We also have provided other avenues for students for upskilling on MOOC courses, the micro-credentials, and some of the platforms that we subscribe as a university to get students to just get the digital badges and experience some of the new emerging courses that will be very helpful when they go out looking for job out there. And as for the final year students way back in 2020, getting them ready for a job is really a game changer for us. We had to do everything online, from the how do you attend job interviews online, CV writing online, how do you communicate online, how do you have your presence online, what are the skills now which is much more needed in a post-COVID. Earlier on, our other speakers have talked about being able to adapt, having the EQ, and also in the intercultural communication. So we have series of virtual sessions, engagement, webinars to really make them, equipped. What is very clear is that we try to provide as much information on the changing landscape of the job out there. What is it meaning to be a remote workforce? What does it mean working from home? So what are the skills, what are the emerging skills? What skills are needed? What are attributes that is more important? So we keep on having lots and lots of programs to support them, to make them confident to reach out, to go in the job market. The second one is, like I said, the precision in intervention. Although we have the regular set of skills, but the psychological capital really come to the forefront. How do you promote resilience? How do you promote mindfulness, grit, and so forth? So we had series of webinars, series of workshops with partners out there. And the fourth one, really, for me, it's really never in many years here at the university, I have actually ventured into so many collaborations with partners out there. Partners from the industry, partners from the ministry, through the Ministry of Higher Education, as well as my international partners. Really, of course, we have done a lot of summer program, but the thematic of the summer program changed when we moved on to online, because students really, at that point in time, they really had a raw deal. They were having classes face-to-face for over many years, and suddenly bang, it's online. So they feel shortchanged. So if we're going to promote a summer program, so what's in? Don't tell me it is another online. So how do you make the engagement? How do we address, the psychological capital and things? So really the theme, looking at the present case where we are right now. So we changed the theme for the hackathon from the virtual program and so forth. Yeah. So it's just an example. Yeah. Way back in 2020, when we just had the first lockdown and we had graduates in the graduates of 2020, they are out there looking for jobs. So together with a company, we provide virtual job fairs. So that was, we did two series in 13 July in 2020, 8 December in 2020, with a partner. We managed to bring in, we have about 4,000, 5,000 graduates per year. So at that time, we were very surprised to see, very happy to see about 1,800 students had e-meetings in that platform. Everything went virtual. So we had booths to about 54 companies. And they had meetings, and 409 students submitted their CV, 191 got a placement, and the company put in the book of record, and we got the book of record being recognized for the biggest number of students, attending the virtual fair. So these are some of the many stories, some of the initiatives that we have done. An example, really reaching out to students, what's the future work out there? So how do you go about, interview online? You're just seeing a screen up front there, and how do you write resume, and a few other things, yeah? And how do you communicate online? So how do you get the rapport there? Because you're not meeting your colleagues and so forth, and a few other things. Yeah, so these are some of the examples. So on that note, I would like to thank everyone again. So this is as much as I would like to share from University Malaya. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Yong, for sharing the practice, especially on the intervention practice in University Malaya. And I think towards the end, Prof highlighted the importance of university in playing the role, collaboration with different partners, especially university, which is quite critical in adapting to this, changing environment. So with that, thank you, Prof Yong. We'll move to our next speaker. And this will be our final speaker, Mr. Nick Naharuddin Muhammad Nasir from Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC. Assalamualaikum, Cik Nick.
Waalaikumsalam, Doctor.
A quick background about Mr. Nick Naharuddin Muhammad Nasir. Mr. Nick currently heads the Digital Talent Pipeline Tertiary Unit at Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC. In this function, his key responsibility is to drive efforts towards meeting current and future needs of digital technology talent through collaboration between institutions of higher learning, industry players, and the government. At the moment, the key initiative run by the unit is the Premier Digital Tech Institution, where MDEC, together with Ministry of Higher Education, have recognized 24 faculties from 16 universities and polytechnics as the key producers of high-end digital tech talent meeting industry expectations. Prior to joining MDEC, Mr. Nick was in the telecommunication industry, implementing optical fiber projects across Malaysia. He holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering as well as an MBA. Mr. Nick, we look forward to hear the industrial perspective. To you, Mr. Nick.
Thank you, Prof. Associate Professor Dr. Faisal. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all. It's always a challenge to come in as a last speaker, and also because I'm speaking after all the great professors, so this is going to be a bit of a challenge for me. But in any case, on behalf of MDEC, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting us to be part of this experience today. So I'm going to come in probably a bit differently from the rest of the speakers because I'm coming in from the industry perspective. And also because MDEC is a government agency, so I'm also going to put in some government perspective into this, because as you know, to produce good talent, you need the collaboration, strong collaboration of all three parties, government, industry, as well as academia, right? Okay, so this is a standard disclaimer. So MDEC, these are all our focus areas. So as you can see, we have this NADI, new skills. Our key focus areas are new skills, looking at the digital skills and jobs, the adoption of digital adoption ecosystem. And then we also look at the disruptors, what the tech ecosystem and the globalization is impact into our local industry. And we also serve as the investment, promoting investment into the digital tech industry in Malaysia. So as you can see, new skills is on top of MDEC's priority. That shows how important talent is to the growth and sustainability of the digital tech industry, I think not only in Malaysia, but as well as all over the world. Okay. So as I think this is, everybody knows this, that the impact of COVID-19, number one, is accelerating digitalization globally. You see, everybody is have moved their work processes to the digital platform and started using all these tech such as BDA. Everybody started talking about cybersecurity and all that. But what is the impact of all this digitalization of work processes? I think the most obvious impact is that the demand for digital job has in fact increased. So we on our side, we look, it's our job to also look at the trend, the supply and demand trend. So if you look at the trend of digital job vacancies over the past year, it has increased about 3.5 times to 72,000 jobs currently as of 30th June, right? So, and most of these jobs, although they are looking for experienced positions, 70% of them, but that means another 30%, they're looking for fresh graduates. So there's about maybe what, 20,000 odd, right? Vacancies looking for fresh grads. And the highest growth is in terms of e-commerce, cybersecurity, networking, and creative content and design. And if you look at the bottom, this is the fastest growing job titles. This is based from LinkedIn Talent Insights, all related to data, software development, digital marketing, and the skills in demand, all these analytical skills, software development, and cloud computing. In terms of hiring demand, I think as expected, the very high demand in Klang Valley, Penang, as well. And if you look at the lowest demands are in Sabah, Terengganu, Kelantan, and Labuan. Okay, so this is within expectation. But another point to note, interestingly, is that 70% of the sectors with very high demand for digital talents are in fact the non-tech sectors. So, so this is this jives with the fact that COVID accelerated the digitalization of all industries, right? So that's why we see that a whole lot of other industries are seeing great high growth for demand, for talent demand. We in financial services or consumer goods, insurance, banking, even management consulting, as well as HR. Everybody's scrambling to get tech talent, digital talent. So that means that even if you're graduating from a non-tech degree, there's still a vast opportunity if you equip yourself with digital tech talent skills, right? So, and companies, 85% of the companies, this is based on the study by Conferry, this quite recent digital talent study 2020. 85% of companies in Malaysia, they are facing digital talent issue. So much so that 43% of them are considering to hire foreign talents. Right? See, 43% in Malaysia. In Singapore, the numbers are also quite high. The only thing is that I think this is something that we are trying to communicate and urge our industry to consider, because it seems that they are not paying the digital talent a good salary as compared to other countries. If you look at say China, Hong Kong, India, and even Singapore, the difference in terms of the salary garnered by non-digital fresh graduates versus digital fresh graduates are quite high, but us, there's virtually no difference. So this is something that our industry need to improve in order to attract and compensate our digital talent more favorably, so that they don't have to go and look for foreign talents. And the digital talent, this is from Job Street Salary Outlook. The career progression, even though they're starting at almost the same, but the career progression, progression of average max salary is higher for tech jobs, right? So having seen all this trend, okay, this is another one. I think this is in line with what other speakers, previous speakers have mentioned. Despite jobs are going digital, but skills and attitude still remain as the most important criteria when companies are hiring, right? Even though you're doing work remotely, still they need to have these qualities from their employees. And having said that, so what is the government and especially in this case MDEC doing about this digital talent? What are we doing to equip our future workforce and our current workforce with the right skills in order to meet the industry demand and in order to make sure that our graduates are getting the right employment that they deserve, right? So we look at the whole spectrum from schools. We are working with the Ministry of Education to for things like training teachers, talking to their school counselors, equipping them with the right knowledge. And we are having this digital maker hub where students can go and experience digital making activities. We also work, of course, closely with tertiary institutions. Our e-Usahawan module, I think Prof Young mentioned just now in they are leveraging on our Go e-commerce platform. And we train lecturers. We work with more than 60 universities and 500 Tibet centers. And we also make sure that the universities that we work more closely with, the employability remains high. Okay. And in terms of the current workforce, we also make sure that the current workforce are not left behind. They continue to upskill. And if the workforce from different industries, they want to migrate, they want to jump into the digital jobs, they are able to do so. So we have created this digital skills training directory where we have more than 250 industry endorsed courses on the directory. Last year, we worked with Coursera to promote their free courses. So our campaign, Let's Learn Digital, saw 22,500 of those Coursera courses completed. Then we also have 4,870 unemployed persons upskill via the campaign. And 42 KL is something, a new initiative which we started last year with our private partners, where earlier this year, we saw the first batch of 42 KL cadets being admitted into the institution. So if you want to know more about this 42 KL, you can visit our website later because I don't have much time to go into that in this session. And in terms of other digital economy jobs and income opportunities, we also look at latent talent. We have our programs, e-Usahawan, e-Rezeki, and e-Glow, where the participants have been creating more than 2 billion income generated. And as part of our promotion of the gig jobs, we are working with over 130 sharing economy platforms, offering gig jobs to Malaysians, right? So I'll go into more details after this. So this is what our moderator mentioned just now. We are having these premier digital tech institutions. Basically, the idea is to tell the industry that Malaysia also have good fresh graduate talents to meet their demand. And we also work with the ministry to expand the benefit to all other universities as well. And I'm not going to go into detail on the PDTI, but what I would like to explore more in this session is that what we are doing, which I believe can benefit even non-digital tech graduates, and this will also benefit not only the existing workforce, but as well as fresh graduates or even graduating students, right? So we have, together with HRD Corp and PCOM, we have come up with this digital tech industry skills frameworks. This is basically a set of frameworks where currently we have 7 tech focus areas. It's a living document. We hope to add more to this. Within these 7 tech focus areas, we have 60 career pathways, defining what are the core skills of each of these pathways, what are the competencies that you need, what are the emerging skills in each respective fields, and what are the in-demand industry certifications. So these 7 focus areas, they are basically creative content animation, digital creative content in animation, cybersecurity, data science, games, digital global business services, digital GBS, software applications, and the latest one is in fintech. So if you are unemployed, or if you want to explore new opportunities in your career, or even if you are graduating students, you can actually explore these industry skills frameworks. For example, if you are in the graduating students in the finance area, and because of there's demand in fintech right now, everybody's talking about fintech. Companies are trying to embed fintech into their business activities, business processes. So you tell yourself, okay, I want to know more about fintech. How do I? What do I need to know? What are the competencies? Is there any certification that I can take so that my employability, my value goes higher in the eyes of my future employer? So you can go and explore all these documents. Similarly, for things like cybersecurity and data science, regardless of which industry area you're coming from, I think these 2 skills are becoming a necessity. At least you need basic knowledge of these 2 so that you become more marketable and more adept at delivering your job responsibilities. So you can explore this. Then the next question is this: once you have explored this, then what's next? How do you learn the skills? Where do you go to learn the skills? So we also have the answer to that. So from the industry skills frameworks, we have created what we call the digital skills training directory, so that your task in searching for the right courses which are aligned to the digital industry skills framework is made much more easier, right? So you can scan this QR code. It will bring you to our digital skills training directory. So as I mentioned earlier, more than 200 skills training already listed in the directory. The number is, again, this is also a live document. We are always trying to add more training courses into this directory, right? So please feel free to explore this. And in view of the challenges faced by the companies, faced by the unemployed Malaysians, so the government has also asked us to help alleviate this condition. So we have introduced this My Digital Workforce Work in Tech, or in short, MyWIT. So the intention is to support employers as well as unemployed Malaysians. So under MyWIT, we have 2 key programs. One is to support the digital business services, and the other one is to support the digital tech apprenticeship. So digital tech apprenticeship, the DTA is a bit more technical compared to the DBS. So that's why you see the monthly salary is there. The training subsidy is higher compared to the DBS program. So basically, MyWIT works by these 2 ways. So employers, they get the salary and training subsidy. Maybe a company, they see that their business is probably can expand, and they would like to have more employees to support the expansion. But due to the current COVID situation, maybe they are facing difficulties. So under this program, MyWIT, they can get the salary and training subsidy to address the digital talent needs. And for the unemployed Malaysians, they can get jobs and be trained in their work relevant skills. So currently, as part of the ongoing Malaysia Tech Month, we have ongoing digital job expo. So if you scan the QR code here, you can it will bring you to the MyWIT site where you can explore the digital job expo. I was made to understand more than 5,000 jobs are available there, and quite a number of companies are participating in the Digital Job Expo. In terms of I mentioned earlier about the e-Rizki and the Glow. So this is part of our push for the gig, freelance and sharing economy. Right. So we understand that youngsters these days, some of them, or it's becoming a trend that quite a number of youngsters, upon graduation, they don't really want to work for other people, but instead they want to be on their own, either as an entrepreneur, or another option for them is the gig work, doing gig work. All right, it's part of the sharing economy. So in MDEC, we understand this because I think most of the gig works are coming in the form of digital jobs. So e-Rizki is a more basic kind of jobs and tasks where even the pakcik-makcik at our kampungs can also participate in the simplest forms of tasks available. Whereas for the Glow is targeted more for the higher end, where we actually working to create awareness and train and onboard graduating students, so that those who are interested to explore the opportunities in the sharing economy, they can get on board, and you know, we can teach them, we can guide them on how to be part of the global online workforce. And because this is something new, so maybe I'll explore a bit more. So the gig is actually suitable for different types of people. So based on our track record, some people use it to supplement their main income, like Encik Hafiz. His primary job is a driver for a logistic company, but through our platform partners, then he becomes a part-time mobile technician for batteryku.com, generating 5,000 to 3,400 ringgit per month extra on top of his main job as a driver for a logistic company. And it can also be used as a replacement of lost income. Dr. Shafiq, he was working previously as an IoT consultant. So he got on board into our platform, and he's now doing gig work as a programmer and software architect. Ms. Noor Ashikin, I think she's one of our star performers. Her specialization is doing writer, translator job, social media manager, and voiceover. Her income in 2019, quite a lot. So it's interesting, but of course this is probably an outlier. But then again, that shows the possibility of this kind of jobs. Right? Okay. Then for fresh graduates, Ms. Nora Asma, she started after graduation. She started doing freelancing work, where she worked as a writer for technical articles for chemical companies. And I think her skill caught the eyes of her future employer. Then that's how the gig work led to her gaining full-time employment at ExxonMobil. So these are the kind of opportunities, possibilities being offered by the gig work. So that's so I'm coming to my final slide. I think the key takeaways from my sharing today is that, of course, the world is going digital, accelerated by COVID-19. Jobs are going digital, but regardless of whether it's going digital or not, soft skills always remain essential. There are plenty of digital learning opportunities, both I think you can explore on your own. LinkedIn Learning is there, EDX, Coursera, everything is there. And of course, you don't forget to explore the MyWit opportunities as well. Gig work is a viable alternative to graduating students. It's a growing trend, and there's a good reason for that, because you can become your own boss, and the income opportunities is a global opportunity. You're not just serving the local market, but you're also serving the international market. And of course, don't forget to visit our ongoing Digital Job Expo. So with that, I hand over to Mr. Moderator again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nick. Thank you for sharing on the different initiative done by MDEC. We are running a little late, so I'll move straight into our question and answer session. If we look into our Q&A box, I think there are several questions being already answered by our panels, but I'll choose some in which relevant to our panel, and I'll try to put them together. So we'll try to pick up one question for each of the panel. So let's move to the first one. Perhaps we'll start off with a question to Prof. Yong. Prof. Yong, we have questions from our attendees. I think there are 2 or 3 questions, very similar questions that asked about the programs that have been conducted, especially the program by the Ministry of Higher Education, like KPT Penjana and so forth. So the question is, how does this program help out? Is there any information that Prof can share on how successful these programs are?
Thank you very much. Yes, for us at University Malaya, we have actually did our fair share, in which we put in a proposal, for the programs, for the upskilling for the graduates in 2020 last year. So with regard to the impact, what we did is we used the database of the graduate tracer study to really monitor the progress of the students. As you all know, the graduate tracer study is a big database of all graduates in Malaysia, and we have the database of the university, and we further subdivide by the faculty, and we do have dedicated people to be calling up, to be checking up on them, to assist them any new openings, their status, and so forth. So that really up to very much a person-to-person kind of communication to assist them, because really, like I said, the opportunities, say, for example, an engineering graduate will be very different, I mean, in this new environment. So we really need to get the students prepared, as well as remuneration, out there. It's not so competitive as it used to be, and also to look at opportunities where they will be working remote workers for a company that has got an HQ in Singapore, for example. So so how do you go about working collaboratively with your international colleagues? So really reaching out, calling them, emailing them. That's the way we reach out to students. I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you so much, Prof. Yong. Okay, I'll move into our second question. I think this will be from another attendee about resilience. I think perhaps Prof. Horn or Associate Professor Michelle can jump into this. So I'll read the question. The resilience of the student reflect how resilient the educators are when there are too many posts on social media highlighting the students' disappointment on education quality in Malaysia, but the management in the university doesn't do much. That's what mentioned by the attendee. In going through sufficient upskilling, how can we expect the student become resilient in these circumstances? So perhaps we have Professor Dr. Horn, maybe can share, and I guess all the leaders of our panel here maybe can share their thoughts on this. We'll start with Professor Dr. Horn.
Yeah, thank you. Resilience is a very important character, whether it's for the students or for us. So as an academic institutions, I think it goes back to the curriculum design. and also how we expose our students, what kind of assignment or assessment that we design for the students. So at UW Malaysia KDU, what we choose is we choose to have a curriculum that is very live. Live means we work with industry in how we deliver the subjects, in how we assess the students. So for example, during this pandemic time, we create an assignments that a real life assignments that we make the students work with the small business entities, a real small business entities when they are facing difficulty in their business during this pandemic time. Especially when it first started last year, a lot of them don't know how to transit into this new world. So they are facing a lot of problems and they don't know how to survive. So we match the industry and our students, and the students will then work with the industry to help to propose a solution for them. During this assignment or proposal development, our academic play an important role, that we don't just let the students do the work and present something that they think that it will work. Along the way, we create failure for the students. So as academic institutions, it's important that we create a safe space for the student to fail. Traditionally, we always believe that we shouldn't fail the student. We should pass the student. We should let them go out and be great. But to build resilience, it is so important for them to experience failure. So my key point is they must solve a real life problem. And along the way, when they solve the real life problem, they should experience failure. And along the way, the academic shouldn't just leave them alone. We need to tell them that, it's normal to fail, but how do you pick yourself up? That kind of experience is the one that built the resiliency. So the pastoral care and how the academic work with the student and also work with the industry to create this safe failure situation for the student. I think that is the most important part. And that's what we are trying to do.
Thank you, Prof. Horn. Maybe Associate Professor Michelle, you want to add in to this?
Yes,
sure,
I can add a little bit to that. I absolutely agree with everything that that was just said. I would add maybe two things to that. I think it's really important that as educators, we model the behavior that we would like from our students. So I think that we have to develop and demonstrate resilience. And I think the other thing that we need to put into the mix is flexibility. We need to, and again, we have to model this through our own behavior as well. We've moved into an age where we need to be flexible, where we cannot just sit in our comfort zones. We have to be prepared to jump and shift and change as the need requires. So they would be the two things that I would add to the conversation.
Sure, thank you, Associate Professor Michelle. Prof. Yong, maybe perspective from Malaysia Public University.
Yes, I agree with Prof. Michelle and Professor Horn on that. But let me just tell you one story. I mean, these values, we cannot be preaching them. I can give a list. Okay, these are the ways to become resilient. It doesn't work. You have to experience that. So we one program, we were talking, we just want to have that built-in resilience, but really not saying out loud there. But we give a team. Okay, how do you go about coping with learning in online? So we bring in students from Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Myanmar, Philippines, Thailand, and a few. So they work in groups. So they present how do they manage, what are the useful tips and things like that. So, and for me, I mean, really, I think the whole group, it's a real, a very steep learning curve where we learn from each other. Our students felt at that point when we had the sessions of reflection, we felt grateful when students at that point in time, Philippines was having the hurricane. So when we have sessions, he was literally, sitting in the downpour with his tiny phone and in and out of the internet. And then when I bring my students back together, they felt, hey, his condition is so bad as opposed to what we have in Malaysia. And then another one towards the end of the project, we lost students from Myanmar. They have worked some presentations halfway through, and at the end of it, she is not able because there was a change in the military thing, so internet was really cut off. It was really sad. I mean, that's where when everybody start to reflect and see and try to identify what are their strengths, what are the things that you are grateful for, what are the things that you as a person can change, that positivity for others. Because I mean, this pandemic taught us we are all in the same situation, but how do we cope, really coping with it? And to me at that point, it's really, we get to be very close with my partners. I've never met them. I met them online, and that's where we curate that project, and it really touched the heart of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Yong. We have a customized question for you, Mr. Nick. Our attendee have asked a question very specifically on MDEC function, or how they have been working together with Malaysian Quality of Assurance in designing the curriculum. Have they engaged with them? And how and when do MDEC play a role in nurturing some of these new things, especially in introducing digital talent awareness? So these are the questions being asked. I combined the question for you, Mr. Nick.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the question. So, like I said in my session earlier, we think that curriculum really needs to be infused with the industry content. That's why we take a lot of effort training lecturers, not just training them, but also equipping them with the industry certification. We used to train students directly, but I think after doing that for a few years, we thought that a better approach is to train the lecturers, because then the lecturers will train the students. So that's what we're doing now. So in terms of curriculum input, what we did previously was we sit in the different industry advisory panels at different universities. But again, we thought that's not going to work because there's so little of us in MDEC. There's so many universities. One university, there's so many faculties, and we were fighting a losing battle. So okay. So what we did was we created a panel consisting of industry players. So this panel, we tried this out in 2018, 2019, where we got a few universities to come to the panel and present their curriculum to the panel. So it was good, but again, I think we realized that we need to streamline this further with the ministry as well as MQA, so that the universities don't have to go to a few panels in order to get their curriculum reviewed. Right. So there's something, a work in progress. We are. I don't know whether I have the right to say this. I think I shouldn't. So we are working on something with the ministry, probably something which will benefit the whole of the tertiary punya institutions in Malaysia. So maybe something, a content that will benefit all universities. All universities can adopt that. Okay. And apart from that, we also working on micro-credential courses. We are getting industry players, creating awareness amongst them that they can actually work with a university to create micro-credentials. So there's something which is also ongoing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Nick. Unfortunately, we only have 5 more minutes before the session ends immediately. So I think with that note though, I thank all the panelists for a great sharing. I think we heard about the adaptability, resilience, and how important to make sure employability is part of lifelong learning, how to pull string with all the different industrial players and join together and strengthen your collaboration with different industry out there, and and engaging with industries such as MDEC and their initiatives in bringing employability, and trying to ensure that in this changing landscape, how can we reach our goal in ensuring that all of our graduates are doing fine. Okay, so I think we heard different things, different views from our panels, and of course, a lot of them, converging to a very specific point is that all these are necessary to ensure professional development and employability can progress towards the benefits of all of our graduates. So with that, I also would like to take the opportunity to thank the Department of Education, Skills and Employment at the Australian High Commission in Malaysia, as well as the Malaysian Ministry of Higher Education. Thank you so much. Congratulations in organizing this webinar series. I think they have done a great job. Thank you so much, Madam Fiona, especially, and Madam Azra. So back to you, Madam Fiona.
Thank you very much, Dr. Faisal. Thank you very much to all of our panelists today. There were excellent presentations and really great insights on professional development and employability issues as we all continue to navigate this pandemic, and then going forward when hopefully this pandemic is over. Thank you to all of our attendees today. We hope you really enjoyed this webinar, and we hope you enjoyed our overall webinar series. It's been a real pleasure and an honour to work with the Malaysian Ministry of Higher Education and with all of our wonderful presenters. Thank you very much. All of the recordings of the presentations will be made available in the next week or 2 weeks, and we'll send that information out to participants. Take care. Please stay safe during these challenging times. Terima kasih. Bye, everybody.